Dear church, I love you. You were the place I first understood the gospel. I didn't know my standing before God had nothing to do with my behavior. I knew Jesus got me into heaven, but only barely. I half expected God to be waiting at the pearly gates, arms crossed with a look on his face that said, "Okay, fine, you can come in." I didn't understand how the gospel could and would change my present-day life, not just my afterlife. To think when God sees me, he has the same love as he has had for his beloved son. I'm still trying to wrap my mind and heart around that one. Dear church, you showed me that. This truth saved my life. Dear church, I loved you. I was there every time your doors were open. You took care of me when my biological family was a mess. Some of your people spoke words I think might have been supernatural. You helped me physically and practically too, with a car and a place to live. You didn't know how much I needed it, but you were still there. You helped me raise funds to go on the mission field. Some of your people surprised me with their generosity, their care. You showed up. But you weren't perfect by any means. I saw infighting and was present for a church split. I saw people at their worst inside of the walls of a church. I also felt awkward and out of place as a single woman. I felt like you were waiting for me to get married before you fully accepted me. It might have been my imagination, but I sometimes felt you didn't know what to do with me. I thought I wanted to work for the church, but I was fearful I wouldn't love my calling the same way once it was my job too. I was wrong. I loved it more. I loved getting to walk with people through the joys and mires of life every day. I loved getting to share that gospel that transformed my view of God. But then something changed. It happened slowly over time. I saw things I didn't want to see. Not in this church I loved. Can it be true? Dear church, you've gotten some things wrong. You've gotten some things way wrong. It took me a while to say it, but now I can say it to your face. You've failed big time. You want the world's affirmation, so you let dynamic speakers lead the way. You don't make sure those speakers are cared for. You don't deal with their sin. In fact, you turn your face away from their failings because their words are just too important. You let weak, power-hungry men run your institutions, and you don't care who gets hurt in the process. You have failed your men. Dear church, you have sidelined and silenced your women, boxed them in, forced them to bury their gifts. You'll say things of women you would never say of someone who has dignity and worth. Sometimes I wonder if you even value the other God image bearer. If you could get away with women doing all the work with none of the credit, you totally would. And sometimes you have. You have failed your women. Dear church, you have victims. Did you know that? Victims who've experienced horrendous abuse. Why do you hide it? It always comes out. Sometimes there's justice and the abusers are caught, but that doesn't help the victims. They've still lost jobs, health, finances, and faith in the church. You think you've done your duty when the abuser gets comeuppance. You forgot to care for the wounded, the downtrodden, the defenseless. They're still here. Can you call that justice? You have failed your victims. You are the abuser. Dear church, your staff and leaders are part of the congregation too. They are humans who wrestle and bleed. You don't always make sure they have what they need. You forget they are just human. You don't encourage them to rest, to grieve, to laugh, to love. Yes, they are the shepherds, but you make their job harder when you hang a crook around their neck. You failed to shepherd the shepherds. No wonder the flock is floundering. Dear Church, your view of forgiveness is damaging. It is wrong. Your view of forgiveness is one-sided and almost always benefits the person in power. Pain is not bitterness. Pain is pain. Someone could stab me in the leg with a knife, say they are sorry, and I can say I forgive you 1,000 times, but the wound in the leg doesn't go away. The wound is still there, gaping and bleeding no matter how many letters of apology are read from the pulpit. Dear Church, your view of kindness is damaging. It is wrong. Kindness is not niceness. It's not smiling and saying, "How are you?" on a Sunday morning. Kindness isn't pretending evil does not exist, extending grace to a select few. Kindness is moving towards someone who thinks differently than you. Kindness is helping someone when it's inconvenient for you. Kindness is risking your reputation in order to do the right thing. Kindness is character when it costs you something. Dear Church, you have failed me, but I need to ask your forgiveness too. Forgive me for thinking the misuse, abuse, and neglect of a few men defines our calling. God called the church. He will see his work through to the end. I don't need to take out vengeance, though sometimes I really want to. God will see evil punished. God will not let the dark days win. Remember that gospel you told me about back in the beginning? You, Church, first told me that good news. Now I'm saying it back to you. It is not because of anything you have done that God loves you and wants you to bring his story of redemption to the world. It is because Christ died for you, and now God loves you and is pleased with you. Your identity is not in your numbers. It's not in your building, your witness, your preaching, your youth group, your church polity, your HR department, or lack thereof. He loves you because he loves you. That's it. You are a hot mess, a hot hell of a mess. He loves you because he loves you. That's it. And this is a great mystery. It's not because of anything you have done, but because Christ delights to love you. We humans will get it wrong every time. Thank God it doesn't depend on us. Dear Church, you have failed in 1,000 ways. Dear Church, you first shared the good news with me. Dear Church, I love you because Christ first loved me.